Welcome to my channel. My name is Carl. I'm a Bob Ross certified painting instructor. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you enjoy my content, please give it a like and subscribe. Today I thought we'd do a fantastic night seascape, Golden Horizon Surge. So get your supplies ready or just sit back and relax. All right, let's go up to the canvas. So here's our black gesso prep. You can pause the video at any time. Here are the colors that I put along the canvas. These are wet and our colors for the painting today. Very simple palette. Sometimes that's refreshing as a painter. Here I went into a little bit of titanium white on the 1-inch brush. You can use the 2-inch brush. Just doing X strokes, and I'm starting where the Indian yellow is. I'm just looking to brighten the sky. So just reloading. I don't have a lot of white on the brush because it's very, very powerful on the black canvas. And then it's really cool. We have all the colors on the canvas, and you can see I'm going to just create some indications, very loose indications of some soft clouds. These ones are very faint, and then you can see I just softened them briefly, and then I went into a little bit more titanium white. I'm going to bring out some more distinct clouds, just a little bit brighter. And then I'm very softly with some light X strokes going back over just to blend out some of the clouds. All right, I'm just again softening. Here's a fan brush going into some white. And there'd be some light cascading to the underside of the cloud. So I'm just putting in some brighter areas as if the light was really hitting just a beautiful sunset. And I'm kind of being loose with the strokes, just using some circular motions. And then the blending is where they really start to take shape. So you can see, so this is a 1-inch brush. And very softly just start moving and dancing around. Just softening the clouds in the sky. And you can make them in your world as soft as you'd like. And here I'm just softening those corners, kind of bringing it all together. Be very careful not to go too far into that center yellow with the green. And then here I'm bringing another layer, a little bit brighter, just another layer of clouds, and then dancing around some more. And in your world, you can put as few or as many clouds as you'd like. So again, I'm just moving around the canvas, and then I'm back to my 1-inch brush, little circular motions, and you can see how I'm kind of tilted. I tilted the brush. I'm really using that kind of edge as I'm softening and focusing mostly on the base of the clouds. And here I'm being very careful as I go down into the yellow. And the more you go over them, the softer they'll get. There, I'm just like a whisper, very soft. You can see there I'm barely using the corner of the brush. And very softly, we have ourselves a very, very beautiful sunset sky. And here I'm just taking a little bit of the paint that was left in the brush, and I'm just creating some very distant light across the water. And then here, with a little bit of titanium white on the fan brush, I'm shaping where I want that major wave to be. And then from there, I'll reference the other waves. And remember, we have the paint already on the canvas. In this case, there's the phthalo green. And it doesn't take much white. So my brush doesn't have a lot of paint on it. But I'm really starting, and I'm just doing sweeping motions, thinking of the waves going out to sea. And you can see this quickly, you can really shape your ocean and have so much fun. And I see here that there's more light in the background, so you'll see throughout the painting, I'll eventually hit some more light zinging through the distant sunset. And you can see also in the distance some of that Indian yellow back in the ocean, and then it moves a little darker into the phthalo green. So here on the waves, as I move forward, I'm doing a sweeping motion, not a lot of paint in the brush. And I'm thinking of the little troughs in between each wave. So I'm kind of doing that sweeping or rocking motion, and I'm pulling some of that paint, I'm sliding it. And leave some of the dark, you don't want to lose all the dark. Creates the depth. And you could spend so much time adding all the details, way more time than I put in here. But you can just have so much fun adding in all the little details. So again, I'm moving towards the big wave, doing some more sweeping and rocking motion, and it's picking up. All I have is white paint. Now here I am adding a little bit of Indian yellow, and we're going to take the filbert brush and go into the eye. And I'm just scrubbing in, and it is picking up some of that green, so I'm reloading. And I really want this to be kind of a little bit more to the yellowish, so you'll see I'll work on the eye here in a little bit. But I'm scrubbing, and I'm going to widen out. It really doesn't take a whole bunch of paint. So again, I'm really scrubbing in, going back to the center and moving outward. And then just scrub in and get a little softer. Now here's a 1-inch brush. You can use a 2-inch brush. And I'm very, very delicately. I'm using probably the tip of the brush. Little circular motions. And I'm very lightly touching the canvas. And you can see it start to blend and almost look translucent. I want it to look like the light's coming through and hitting the wave eye. So very soft, and then I'm going to start to shape the direction of the wave. You want to make sure you're going in see that sweeping motion. So that's how the water would flow. I'm going to start to sweep and flow in the direction the water would go. And then like 2 hairs and some air to remove any brush strokes, very soft. But look at the light coming through. And then here with a little bit of Indian yellow and white on the fan brush, I'm going to get this crashing wave. Just some highlights. So I'm using kind of the right corner of the fan brush. I'm kind of pulling and sliding it. And each time I am reloading. Sometimes you can make the sound, helps with your painting. And then here I've got a dark color. I'm kind of mixing a little bit of black and phthalo green and alizarin crimson. I just want really a darker color. And I'm scrubbing in the shadow of where the foam would be. And just maybe where it would crash over, create some foam patterns. And then here I have the fan brush with a little bit of that yellow mixture. Very light, and I'm just thinking of how the foam will come around onto the beach. And this is just a very rough indication, helping me kind of lay out the pattern. So just dancing around, having a good time. This is one of my favorite parts. I feel like this is what brings your seascapes to life. When you start shaping in the patterns and the foam on the beach. A lot of fun. Just putting some finishing touches on the shaping of the wave, starting slowly to come to life. And here's the 1-inch brush, and I'm very softly, just blending out some of those foam patterns and really setting them into the wave. Very soft. And here I have a filbert brush going into the yellow mixture, maybe a little bit more to the white side, and we're going to start bringing in some of these foam patterns. Just right on the ridge, and I'm kind of pressing up and then making little circles as well. But you'll see I'm really pressing up, pushing that paint, and it kind of highlights where the light is hitting. And I'm staying right above my shadow area. I still want some of the shadow to show, and we'll start blending shortly. You'll see a little bit later on I am going to change the shape a little bit of that front wave. And then very, very carefully, this is the 1-inch brush. You can see I'm using very few hairs, lightly touching in between the shadow and the highlights. And I'm just starting to create that kind of that foamy look just by blending. Very soft. I can't stress that enough. So here I went in with a little bit of Indian yellow on the filbert brush, and I'm scrubbing into the eye, and then here's the 2-inch brush, and I'm very softly blending. Again, you'll see me use the 2-inch brush and 1-inch brush for a lot of blending. Personally, I feel like the yellow is a little intense, and you'll see me in a little bit bring back a little bit of white. And then I'm going back with just some brighter whites on some of those foam areas. So again, I'm pushing just to make that pop a little bit more, like the light's catching it. But these crashing wave seascapes are so much fun. You should definitely, if you're into the Bob Ross painting and doing this method, I would really encourage you to try these. So again, I'm working in layers, if you've noticed. I want to really create some layers into this crashing mist. Now for the reflection, I took my 1-inch brush and I'm just going into some yellow and white. And I want to create the illusion. I do have some paint already on the canvas, but I really want to bring some of these reflection colors from the sky. So I'm just pulling straight down, very important. And I'm going to keep working this. So I'm going to switch over to a 2-inch brush. And I'm pulling straight down. But look at how quickly, look at that. And I just added some more white. And then ever so softly go across. And that quickly we've created the illusion of kind of a watery beach. And here I did add a little bit more white at the eye and then softening it out, very soft, like a whisper. I feel like that's more accurate in the glow coming through. And then this is the filbert brush with more white on it. And you can certainly, if you're looking for any art supplies, you can check out my affiliate links in the description below for Bob Ross products or just art supplies in general. And then I'm starting to put some indications on the back waves. Just touching like maybe some little foam spots. The waves are starting to come up. And then on the knife here, I'm using kind of a gray color, so a little black with white. I don't want these to be too bright here initially, but I'm shaping in and pressing in where some of that foam would start to come up on the beach. And then you can see me sliding back into the wave. So think about the shape of the wave. So I have a little roll of paint, and I'm dropping the handle as I move down the beach. Now, as the foam patterns go back into the wave, I'm starting to go upward. You can kind of see. So we're just doing some general shaping. And you can have fun. You can use a liner brush. You can use a knife. You can use a fan brush. Really, a lot of different options when you're doing the foam patterns. Now here I'm pulling back some of the foam from the knife. Very, very carefully. Now here's where I changed the wave. I saw something. I wanted to bring kind of on this front wave, just some indications of some more shadows. And maybe this wave was bigger, kind of what I saw. And then just to create a little shadow on the wave itself, I'm just pulling some of that black color or dark color down into the wave. And now I'm coming back with my filbert brush with the white paint, and we're pushing in some of those big crashers. And I tried to vary the height so it wasn't just a straight line. But I like that adjustment. So as you're painting and as you do more paintings, you'll see things when you paint. I just feel like that matches it much better. A big wall of water crashing over. And then here I'm starting to dance in some more foam patterns. So I just have a fan brush, some white paint. But look at all these details that you add. Really start to bring your painting to life. And with the black gessos, you can change up the colors. You can have so much fun with the different colors. Here I added a little bit more dark under the wave. I just wanted more of a shadow. I thought that was getting a little too bright. And then with a 2-inch brush, very soft, I'm just blending in some of those foam patterns. 2 hairs and some air, very soft. Here's the liner brush, a little bit of the light yellow color. And I used walnut oil to thin it down. And you can see now I'm just going in and I'm going to put some highlights on the distant waves and maybe some of the troughs. So just some sweeping motions. And here's where you can really spend a lot of time. Putting in lots of details. So think of the shape of the waves. They kind of go up and down, and I'm kind of creating that trough effect. And just thinking of where some of the highlights might hit. And here you can see I've taken that same color and I'm going down into the eye a little bit and just creating some more of those detailed foam patterns. I think it adds a lot to the picture. And then I took a little bit of the dark shadow mixture on the liner brush here, and I'm just shaping right around the eye. And I'm actually using, you can see right there, I'm using the liner brush to blend. I'm just mixing very delicately. But it helps add a little bit more definition into the eye. And again, some more patterns here. We don't know, we're just having a good time. Now this is where it gets exciting. Now I'm going to bring in some very bright light zinging across just some of the foam on the beach. I envision some of the light hitting right there. Just beautiful. Maybe it kind of dances here and there back into the wave. Not everywhere, just here and there. And then now I'm going to take a little bit of black on the 1-inch brush, and I'm going to create the illusion of some grasses and bushes. I'm going to set in the initial general bushes, and then I'll go to the liner brush here. But I really want this kind of silhouette, really, really dark. And then notice I'm pulling upward. And this is thinner. I did add a little bit of walnut oil to the black. I want it to look wispy, like maybe there's some wind blowing, some tall grasses. This will help with that illusion. So I'm just creating that effect. If your paint is thin enough, it will help. Now here I did add a little bit of the dark color. I just wanted to darken this side. And look how quickly you can do that. And then I'll just start blending it into the wave. Just re-highlight a little bit and then put a few soft foam patterns just to set it in. But it helps draw the eye to the center of the painting. And then here I took a little bit of the yellow mixture. And I'm just hitting some certain spots where I think the light is hitting off of that foam pattern. I just get really excited with the foam. It's so exciting and a lot of fun. Maybe there's some zingers in the back here. Now here's where I'm going to go with the knife, and I'm going to go to the very back of the ocean here. And I'm just going to put in some brighter spots. With the sunset, there would be a lot of light hitting back there. So I'm just putting just some bright areas, just touching very carefully, still leaving some dark, but just like that, it brightens that background up. And then with a liner brush, with thinner or walnut oil in my case, I'm just kind of flicking my wrist and pulling up the grasses. I am pulling some a little bit higher up into the ocean. And then you'll see me add some details onto the grasses as well. But you can spend as much time, but I think this really sets in. I like the silhouette look in front of the ocean. And just putting in some little things happening on the grasses. Very important that you have a thin paint. It makes it a lot more difficult if it's thick. Now here I pulled the other way carefully through the thicker paint. And then I'm just going to put in some details. But again, you could spend hours going back into your painting, putting lots of details in, and the more you put in, the more realistic it'll look. And just like that, we have ourselves a finished painting, and I'm going to sign it. I really had a lot of fun with that painting. I hope you enjoyed it too. Check out my website at carlvarnartistry.com. I do have affiliate links for Bob Ross products or art supplies in the description below. Happy painting. See you next time.